Hello there, YouTube. I'm Wheelchair21, editor-in-chief of the website Hero Club, hero-club.com, where you can follow us across social media using Hero Club for Life. Obviously, we'll have all of that at the end of the video as well in our description. And today we're doing an interview with one of the stars of Guyver 2 Dark Hero. It is Bruno Patrick, who played Crane, who was also Guyver Zoanoid, right now with us on Skype.
Hey guys, how are you? Very nice to meet you, William, and thank you for interviewing me today. I'm very excited about being here.
Yeah, I knew after that anniversary you guys did earlier this year, and then when you started talking about doing conventions, I was like, maybe I should try hitting him up, see if he's completely cool about doing this, because as you and me were discussing when scheduling this, like you said, you were shocked that Guyver 2, you knew that like fans liked this movie more than the first one, but you were like unaware that a lot of people actually know about this particular film and your role and all the other characters in the film due to either being fans of the anime, manga, or Tokusatsu sci-fi fans throughout the industry.
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea until about, 4 months ago or so. A director-producer from Oklahoma called me, Donovan Thompson, and it was very funny because he says, he called me up, he goes, "Is this Bruno Patrick?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I am a huge fan of yours." And he goes, "I want to do a podcast with you, and there are so many fans out there." And I kind of thought about it, and I go, "Are you Joey from Detroit?" I grew up in Detroit. I go, "Come on, are you messing with me or whatever?" And he goes, No, man, there's a lot of people that, are interested in that, are your fans and want to hear from you and that." And I said, "Well, okay, I'll do the podcast." So it kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah, because I'm assuming for you, you just assumed it as, oh, it's adapting a Japanese comic book. It's a direct-to-DVD film. No one's going to really see this. It's not going to be big until, like, years later you realize, oh, this was actually a very popular manga and anime, at least for that generation. Because I know people nowadays only know of the Guyver mostly due to the live-action films or its 2005 anime that came out.
Right. It's funny, from time to time, like every year or so, somebody would reach out and go, "Hey, can I get an autograph from a picture from Dark Hero?" And I go, "Sure, that's really nice." And you're right, I had no clue that it was building steam and that more and more people liked it all along, because people would ask me, like, "Where have you been?" I would get that. And I'm going like, "Well, I've been in Glendale, California, and Los Angeles."
Yeah, because I was wondering, like, did you do a lot of stage stuff after the film? Because your filmography is, like, probably very selective from what I understand. It's like 6 films, and a lot of them are very indie.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I did do a lot of theater. I study my butt off even to this day. Yeah, I've done, and I have done a number of independent films, some really, really good ones, big ones, that just never got distributed or released. So they weren't actually on there, and I never put them on IMDb. I guess I should have, but yeah, it was more theater, and the teachers I study with are like some of the best in the country, from the Actor Studio. Are you familiar with the Actor Studio? There's one in New York, and you're in neck of the woods. And
no, I actually haven't, which is funny because I went to school originally for both screenwriting and journalism. Those were like the 2 things I was trying to go to school for in that. And then I just got grabbed, I think, the basic 2-year degree, and then dipped. And I've been technically vlogging and blogging most of my time trying to get noticed.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Yeah, the Actor Studio had like, I have a wonderful teacher named Salome Jins, and she goes way back. You probably never heard these stars, Rock Hudson, or...
No, I know Rock.
Yeah, there was Marilyn Monroe, all these old stars. She went to school with them at the Actor Studio, and Lee Strasberg was very instrumental in teaching them. And he came from from his teachings. And there's a number of different teachers like Uta Hagen, Sandy Meisner. They all have their different techniques. But the Actor Studio's pretty amazing. If you get in, like Robert De Niro's in it, and a number of big stars. And I've auditioned 4 or 5 times, but I never took it really serious, because they said, "Well, where have you been? Or why didn't you come back for a second audition?" It's kind of a tough school to get into, but the teachers are phenomenal from there, especially the one I'm studying with now. So
yeah, because funny enough, I some of my friends at the staff think I'm like a cinephile because I've seen a lot of classic stuff. I watch a lot of stuff, whether it's not just cult, sci-fi, action, horror.
Sure.
I do watch a lot of the old classics. So like I grew up watching like Turner Classics, so I know like all these old time movies. Like I'll be watching, and then people will be like, "Oh, did you know this movie was a remake allegedly?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, I've seen this movie." Like there's stuff like that where like a lot of people just be like, "I didn't know this. Did you know?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I vaguely knew." Like
Wow.
I have discussions with my friends a lot about like what's the best version of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, because there's like three of them, and like only one of them got nominated for an Oscar at one point, and so we always have like these debates.
All that
like,
stuff, yeah.
Yeah,
That's great. That's really great.
yeah. But I personally, I think I gravitate towards sci-fi. I gravitate towards Japanese, action movies, kaiju films, and I do also gravitate towards old classic horror because my dad is kind of like one of those old school. He loved, Universal. He loved those like monster movies. He got into the early Godzilla films by proxy. It got me in there. And then eventually I was going to just stumble upon Guyver due to the stunt team being associated with Koichi Sakamoto, who was actually your suit actor at one point or another in the film.
Sure.
Yeah.
That was great. That's great.
Yeah. So, like I said, we got probably 10 to 11 questions, whatnot. So I guess, like we usually begin with, we always ask, what got you actually into the entertainment industry? Like, what inspired you to want to become an actor?
It's interesting when you asked me that question before. I thought about it, and I grew up back in the Midwest, Michigan, and I was extremely shy and introverted, very, very low self-esteem. And I'd always put my hand over my eye, like I was very shy. And I remember, I think it was fourth or fifth grade, a teacher in one of my classes said, "Hey, could you read this for me?" And it was a little skit they were doing in class. So I read it, and at the end of the skit, they had this little monster, and he would make this really weird gurgling noise. And it's funny. And when I did that, I saw that the response from the class and everybody was smiling and they liked it, and it kind of brought me out of my shell, kind of, That was a start where I'm going, wow, I wasn't so much introvert as long as I was performing, I guess, as it were. So I continue to do that. I didn't do too much high school theater, but when I moved from where I was at in school, I went out to came out here to California. Excuse me 1 second. Anyway, I moved from Michigan. I did some theater back there in at Wayne State and a couple of other colleges. Then I moved out here to major actually in science. I went to like a kind of a medical school type of thing, and alongside did theater and did acting, took classes, and I just took to it. It was like I became so addicted to the classes and working on scenes, and I think it was a huge challenge for me. Anything that's kind of edgy, I'm kind of an edgy person. Anything that gives me a little bit of a challenge and a little bit of fear, I want to overcome that. That's my big thing. So then it just took off from there. I started to do some in college films and then independent films, and then Guyver came up, and that's where it is. I'm very fortunate. We can get into that later, but I just got 2 new agents I signed with in Atlanta, Georgia, a new manager. I have an agent here, so we'll see how that goes this year. So I'm expecting to go out more often and hopefully book roles very soon. So
now the reason you have a agent in Georgia, correct? You said, or Atlanta?
Yes.
Is because from what I've heard, they also have like their own little kind of Hollywood film area out there. Like they do TVs and other stuff down there. So I'm guessing it's because it's across the coasts. It's from coast to coast. Obviously, your agent can't cover that ground out there. So it's like another required thing in the industry to just have agents on both sides. Is that how it works? Could you explain that a little better?
Yeah, that's great. You hit it right on the button. Like I'm also going for a couple agents in New Mexico. I'm going to solicit them shortly. I have relatives in that area, so I would like to work out there also. But yes, as far as Atlanta and LA, because they're filming in both areas, it's definitely better to have more agents, more representatives to look for work for you. And you're right, they are. Even the manager that I acquired, she said, yeah, there's a number of jobs out there that I can't get at. There's a different breakdown system. Like, for example, here, for the average actor, we can go, have you heard of Actors Access?
Vaguely, yes. I know
Yeah.
stuff like SAG and all the other
Yeah,
stuff that you have to do to do stuff.
right. Actors Access can be for any actor, whether you're union or non-union. You go on there, you build your whole account up, and you put your pictures in there and your resume and your reels. And every day, if you go on there, there's breakdowns throughout the country that you're allowed to submit to as union or non-union on your own. And what that is it gives you a lot of indie films, a lot of college films, and some bigger ones that that are showing. But to get to the big ones, the TV and the larger productions, the studio productions and the larger ones, you need agents. They get separate breakdowns. They're allowed to get a separate breakdown than what we get. So that's why you need an agent, and you need an agent, a manager to get connections. So you can have agents. People don't know this. You can have agents in every state. You can only have one agent per state unless they work for the same company. I have 2 agents in Atlanta. I have 2 agents here, but one just kind of folded up and left. But so agents you can have all around, and you pay them a certain percentage. Managers you can only have one of. They manage you, they nurture you, they're the go between you and your agent. Your agents kind of they help you get the jobs. They sign they make sure all the contracts are proper. Your managers kind of is like family. They nurture you, make sure your pictures are right. They advise you and things like that. So that's kind of the difference. Is that clear? I mean,
Yeah,
does that make
yeah. Because I was hoping to break it down a little, because I already know sort of how like the system works. But when you were saying about having different agencies, because when I hear some people, they'll say, oh, they have their own office in Atlanta or their own office in LA. But
right?
I don't usually hear that, oh, no, I need to have separate agents per state, or like, I guess, film blocks where areas,
Sure.
occur. I guess you'd say like how there's like East Coast branches and West Coast branches. I just know, like you said, that the manager usually has to work with the agents and vice versa. And that.
Absolutely. I
And
mean,
oh, sorry,
yeah,
I
go
didn't
ahead.
mean to cut you
No,
off.
no, no,
No,
I'm
sorry,
sorry.
no.
Yeah.
No, I was, no, you continue. Sorry about that, though.
No, what was my train of thought? Well, my train of thought was interesting. When I first thought that you could have agents, that I didn't understand how it all worked. And my friends were going like, wait a minute, you have an agent and you have 2 agents over there, you have 2 agents here, manager, you're going to be paying everybody like 15, 20%, 10 to 15%. You're not going to have any money left. So I thought, oh, I got to pay everybody once I get one role. But the way it works is of the agents, if they get me a role, my manager always gets paid, and then my agent will get their 10%. My manager will get their 15%. My agents in other states won't get anything. So that I go, okay, that makes sense. So
Yeah, that checks out, I think, now. So there's no like rollover, as long as, okay.
right.
Yeah. Because I was also going to ask too, to kind of go back to how you got into the industry. As you said, you did do this for being, to get more extroverted, because you were introverted, right? But
Yes.
so you didn't have any particular like movies or genres that you gravitated to. It was more like you just saw it as your way of just opening up to the world, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I definitely love sci-fi. I love action movies. Um, I love rom-coms. I love some romantic comedy. It depends on the mood I'm in. I could be across the board. Depending on my mood, I will watch certain movies. I definitely like action, shoot 'em up, blood and guts, that also. So I feel good that I can that I gravitate towards all of them actually. But definitely the main reason was a challenge. I'm an edgy person. I mountain climb. I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I like to go into battle, so to speak.
I would not really expect that from you, because of just that one particular role as Crane that we see you as, where you're very like the suit and tie kind of guy, and you never really get to, they never go, oh, you have a martial arts background? Like, I would have thought they would want to incorporate you before transforming, with how everything was going down on that set.
Yeah, what's funny is I usually don't tell too many people. Like I had a fan contact me through Facebook, and he goes, "Oh, how much martial arts do you do?" I don't know if you saw because he saw my a little bit of promotion videotape that I did before the RoboToyFest, and I did a little kung fu, a little boxing, in it. And he said, "Oh, are you skilled in it? Are you professional?" I go, "No, no, no. I know basics. I know a little bit, and that's all I know. But I've studied it, throughout time. But I'm not great at it. I'm really not a tough guy. I'm very gentle, and I don't like to fight or anything. But I like to train in it.
All right. So I guess getting into the actual movie that we're going to be discussing throughout most of the interview.
Sure.
One of the things I want to know is how did you like learn about the casting calls in general, and what was your audition process like? Because that's always a cool thing that I like to learn about is what was auditions like? Were you always the number one guy? Did you have to like outact other people? So
Yeah.
tell us about that.
Oh, no, I appreciate that. Well, back then when this movie was cast, we were sending in hard copies, meaning in the mail, we were sending our headshot and resume in. It's not like today, 1,000 people can audition through video and you just send your video in. So I was sending out maybe 15 or 20 a week is the most I could get out. And honestly, I mean, it's such a long time ago. I think I remember auditioning for David Hayter's role or sending in. When I read the breakdown, I go, "Oh, I would like to play that part." Sent it in. They called me, and I didn't know. Then they called me in for Crane, and I remember going there, and I always get there early. One of my auditions, I'm like an early bird, and I asked the front office. I said, "Hey, my audition's at 10 or whatever. I was there at 9." I said, "Do you happen to have the script? We weren't privy to the script." So she goes, "Yeah, we have one right here. Read it." So I read it. I was really lucky. It took me an hour or so to read through it. And eventually I went in, met Steve Wang, and read. And I don't remember, and it went well. I don't remember. I think I had one callback. But the really interesting thing about it was that when I went to the reunion, Steve, when did you see the reunion? I think they live streamed it. Did you happen to catch any of it?
No, I found out about it like right after it like happened.
Okay.
I think someone like told me about it happening, so I was
Okay.
like late to
Yeah.
knowing anything.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, I didn't even know it was being live streamed, but I remember after we saw the movie, we went on stage and they did a Q&A, right? So when, the microphone came to me, I was speaking about my experience on set. And then right after, Steve says, "Hey," he goes, "I want to say something." He said, and this was like probably the best compliment I could have gotten. And I think it surpassed everything that night as far as excitement and gratitude. And that he said, "When Bruno walked in, we went, oh no, he's not the one. We need a Lex Luthor, like from Bat. We need an older, tougher, bigger Lex Luthor." But his reading was, he read so well that we changed the script around to fit him. And I thought, wow, that was like a huge pat on the back and a good compliment. I mean, huge for my craft, because I'm really into craft. So they looked at me and said, "No, you're not doing it," until I read, and then they changed it around. So worked out really good for me.
Yeah, because what's funny too is when watching the movie without, I guess, jumping too far ahead, when watching Crane's scenes, he has like a very interesting presentation about him because in the early scenes before you realize, oh, the Zoanoids are the ones running the camp, your character is like kind of being like an actual real legit like honest businessman, like, "Hey, how's everybody?" Like you're actually playing the, "Hi, I'm actually a nice business guy. I can be a little rough around the edges," where like you shout a few times, but like you're usually like talking calmly and all that stuff. But then like once Sean finds out the Zoanoids are there, he's like, "Something's fishy. This is Kronos." And then when you start figuring out the Guyvers in camp, you're like sweating, like, "Oh God, what am I gonna do?" You go from like being also a boss to also being the minion because you have to stay in contact with the Zoa Lord, and you're like, "Yo, the Guyver's here," and he's like, "Well, if you don't do something about it, your ass is grass." And so like there's like these phases where Crane's like super calm, then he's like super serious, then he also plays like sniveling to his boss, but then he's like he has so many layers of like just what's going on in that film. And
Yeah.
I was like, I could see that like there might have been a few changes because I remember how when your character does the proposal to Sean, David's character, you know, and then you transform to talk about we need to work together. Like that's like a very Luthor kind of scene, the early scene. And so like there's a lot of layers that are going around with the character, felt like, with just a short amount of screen time.
I so appreciate you saying that, because back then when you're in the middle of it, you're going like, okay, you're just doing your thing and you're not watching yourself. And then it's really nice to hear that years later that I had layers, because I worked with some really great teachers on it. And, you know, people ask me like, how'd you play that or whatever? And I I always look for the better part of a villain. I look for the good part of him, you know, the vulnerable part, the human part, the good part. And so yeah, so that's kind of what I look towards when I'm working on characters. And it's great that the way it was written was there are multi-layers. And if you do your job as an actor, for example, when I got like nervous with my boss, like that's called personalization. When I really personalize someone, whether it's a worker or my boss, I may put my father in it, which I did do. I put my father and my father was tough and mean and everything else. So I overlaid my father into my boss. And that's where you got the, like, it's okay, you know, the little, a vulnerable, weak thing, you know, and whatever choices I make, I want to justify. I tell him, I go, hey man, if I got to wipe out this whole camp, I'm doing it for the better. I believe that I'm going to save the world if I wipe out all these people, because they're bad, you know. So when I justify that and make it more human, to me, then people see that layers and it seems real to them, kind of. But thank you. That's good you saw the layers.
Yeah, because when I looked at it, because like some of it just felt, I would say like either there was stuff on the cutting room floor or it was just that's how it was filmed. Because I sat there and I go, there's scenes where he's like very calm, collected, where he's posing as like this nice guy in the camp, but until Guyver shows up, then he's like getting really like aggressive with some of the other staff under him. But then whenever he refers to if I recall, it was either Lisker or Guillot's the first one, I think. Lisker was your movie, which are both characters from the manga. Sometimes I switch them up because they made the actors look like one character in particular.
Right.
So because of that, I sometimes I think confuse them. But like I said, whenever you were with your boss, like all of a sudden Crane's character gets very like little like spastic, like boss, but sir, versus where everyone else he's just like, all right, you do this, you do that, da 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 da. So no, it was just one of those things where I noticed that there's like layers to it. And here's a question: when you got the script, and from what I've understood is that the film's been marketed sometimes without the 2 in the name. Did the script already have Guyver 2 in the title, or did it just establish that it was Dark Hero when you got it? Like, did it indicate that it was a sequel? Like, did you know it was a sequel when going into it?
I did not know it was a sequel at all. So I think it was just Guyver 2, Dark Hero. That was it. I never knew there was a first one until way into filming. And then somebody said, you know, there's a sequel, you should check it out. And I go, I don't like to look at prequels. I don't want any, any ideas from what someone else did. I like my own, which maybe is good and bad, you know?
Yeah, because I wasn't aware, because I know some people going into the film, obviously, like Wang knew because he worked on the first one, I believe, and that. So obviously some of the producers knew, some of the writers, but I was unaware if any of the actors might have known, because when the first one came out, if I remember, I don't know how big, but it was essentially a flop. It didn't deliver right, and it was a shame because like we didn't get until now the supposed unedited cut that was supposed to be the one they intended to release. Through I think Arrow Video just recently, or is it coming out soon? I forget. I lost track of home video releases myself. So do you recall if you and other cast members by any chance were aware, though, at least that it was adapting a Japanese property like a manga/anime, or were you guys just like, oh, it's a sci-fi movie? Like, was that kind of the talk on set? when you talked with other cast members?
You know what's funny about that, William, is I guess I was so focused on my work. I did not make time for small talk. I'm kind of weird with that. So, I mean, we maybe laughed and joked a little bit, but because, I was on point pretty much all the time. So I was, I don't remember chatting about that. Maybe after the fact, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I was wondering because how you're explaining is like you were just locked in, which makes sense. Some actors are just locked in. They just want to get the stuff done, get everything done, have a good time.
Yeah. I mean, to work on, because you got to read the script. I read scripts every day when I work on it, and come up with different ideas each time I read it. And it's what we call it a process. There's no final product. One of our teachers will say, when you're going to be ready to do the role, the very closing night, because that's when it starts. It's always a process. There's no finished product. So I'm always working and focused on what I need to do. As far as the rest of the cast members, I mean, they were all great to work with, but that's another story. But so
since you talked about like you say, you reread the script multiple times, are you one of those note takers? Like when you're reading your script, do you like highlight, circle, say, oh, I need to redo this way if we do another take? Like do you get like that zoned in where you're actually writing down notes for yourself, or saying, oh, this doesn't feel right or whatever? Or do you just like go, all right, I read it and this is how I'm going to perform it?
Well, what I do, because I work on my the way I work is always twice a day. When I get up in the morning, I'll reread the script. I'm working on projects right now, and each time I read it and work on it, I'll say the words out loud, and all my notes are pretty much in my head. I change each day that I work on it. I go, oh, I need to use my sister instead of Lisa in class. I need to use my sister in that role when she came home and I crashed her car.
Okay, so what your idea is always just using how can I put how this relates to me, like you said earlier with your father, right? And that's
Right.
how your mental notes are.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
personalize it. But as far as notes, I may take a few that if the director gives me notes, yes, I'll write those down and make sure that I give him what he needs. But for my own personal stuff, I do write a whole history though, up to the beginning of the film. Like I'll write where I grew up on a farm. I had two brothers. My father treated me like this, with reference, pulling information and ideas from the film, from the start of the movie. You have to write a whole history. You have to write where you live, who your friends were. At least most of the actors that are worth their weight will write a whole definitely history, because you want to come in with all that. Make sense?
Yeah, no, that does make sense. Where you want to like at least formulate what the script hands you, and then try to figure out the backstory for yourself. And try, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to give you a bit of composure and that of where you're going to go with this once it starts rolling. And that,
Yeah, and it's all about specifics. You got to be really, really specific in your choices. You can't be general in any of your choices you make. What I want from this person has to be really, really specific. Why you need it, who you need it from, and commit. Make it urgent. A lot of our teachers will say, you got to make it urgent. You need to get them out of the house now. You got to make things urgent. So.
So now I've heard stories, rumors, and I believe Wang himself mentioned in an interview that you guys did have a significant like lower budget on this film. Do you recall like budget ever being an issue for you guys, or like you guys obviously knew what the budget was, I'm guessing, going into the film. So do you think it ever really affected the overall film from your perspective?
That's a good question. I just knew that when it came out that it was, I want to say it was under $1 million. I don't even recall, but it was.
I checked what Wikipedia says, at least as a guesstimate.
Yeah, I think it was just short under there compared to the first one. I know they worked hard and long hours, and as far as affecting the film, I did not see any problem with it myself. Like, in other words, Steve was not like, come on, get this shot. he would always say, and I loved him. He goes, "You want to do it again? You want to do it again?" And that was, I think, 16 millimeter they were shooting on. You want to do it again? And I go, yep, until he really got it and I felt comfortable. So there was no rushing as far as my shooting went. So, I didn't see the budget effect in the movie at all. So.
All right. So what was it like though? Because you guys were filming in Utah, or was it? I know the film says you were in Utah or something, but I'm assuming you guys were someplace not Utah.
Yeah, Utah, California.
Yeah.
It was U-Haul. It was at the U-Haul. No, we shot in two sets. One was in North Hollywood in the San Fernando Valley, which is north of Hollywood, in a huge warehouse. They built a phenomenal set, unbelievable. When I walked in,
that cave set and the spaceship was awesome.
OMG, it was phenomenal. I brought friends to the set, and I go, oh my gosh! I mean, outside of this cave, they had all these little stations with the artist working on the costumes
and that,
everything. Yeah, it was just really wicked cool. And then what I really liked, I liked the outdoors and mountains and stuff. So the second set was way up in Angeles Crest Mountains, which is from where we were at probably a good hour, maybe an hour and a half. They took us up by van on the second set, and that was outside in the mountains and everything else, and it was gorgeous. So it was cool, very cool.
Yeah, because I know the film, I knew it had to still be like maybe like near the California redwoods or whatnot because the location. But I know the film tries to tell you, oh, he went all the way out to like Utah or Wyoming just for this.
Well, do you know, I don't know
There's
if
that whole montage of him doing the Incredible Hulk like hitchhike. Yeah.
Right. You know what? I should find out. I'm guessing they changed the sign. I don't know if it said Utah or whatever. I don't think they went way out there. Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah,
but possibly. I don't know. I don't know. But
I forget. Like I just remember there's like this whole gag, but you could still tell it was shot somewhere out in California. But I forget where he's supposed to be heading toward. Yeah, it says that it's in Utah. The location I'm looking, it says he goes from Los Angeles to Utah, and I'm like, they're still filming in Los Angeles.
Yep. Who knows? Maybe they went all the way out there, got the one scene, and came back, but I doubt it.
Exactly, because there's like, you're now entering Utah. I'm like, nah, they had to call somebody, like, yo, can we use the stock footage? Like, it just felt so funny looking at that, like, in hindsight. Because, like, you can tell it's somewhere out in California, yet you're trying to mask it like Utah. So budget was not really bad. You got a lot of filming done.
Sure.
I guess one of the things I gotta know, as I mentioned earlier, was there more footage of you out of the Zoanoid / Guyver form, or was that all the script originally intended? Because, like, I think Crane untransformed, you have probably like the least amount out of the main cast of footage next to Corey's dad, who's there for like 2 minutes.
Right. I don't remember. I mean, I remember going through the script every day, kind of looking at it and highlighting it. I don't remember. That's a really good question. It's been so long. I feel like we got everything in it. I don't remember. I don't feel like when I was on set going like, hey, wait a minute, you missed this portion or you missed this scene. I think they wanted to, start me off really a few lines and then build up, I guess. That was their intention. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it seemed like a lot of lines, but you're right. When it comes down to the air time, it wasn't that much.
Yeah, because I think like when I was sitting there timing it, well, I didn't try to time it fully effectively, but like I was doing mental math. I was like, obviously David as Sean has the most time. Corey probably has the second most time. And surprisingly, I think Commander Atkins gets more screen time than you as just Crane.
Right.
Because most of the time I remember seeing Crane, he's usually transformed as one of the two forms in this, which, like I said, required. I can't believe it required like 3 suit actors. Like I know you weren't there for the filming. We talked about that. You weren't there for the action scenes. You were there for like the press images where you like took that cool shot of you, Zoanoid Crane, and then the suit. but like supposedly 3 like known Toei suit actors, Koichi Sakamoto, Akihiro Noguchi, and Tatsuhiro Koki, they were like all in that suit at one point or another doing all the Guyver Zoanoid stunts.
Crazy.
I know, I was shocked. I thought it was just one guy for that whole thing.
Wow.
So, for what you recall, you got all your scenes done. There's no cut. Like, I'm waiting one day, like, Steve's going to be like, oh no, there's like 5 minutes of deleted footage. Wait, what? Like,
Well, you know what? I could, if I, you know, what's very interesting, William, is so since this surgence of Guyver has, you know, come into my life, different people have approached me, and I had lunch with a writer. I don't know if you know Stan Geezy is. I might have mentioned him in thanking him for his help. And I went to lunch with him before the Comic-Con, like a week before, and he gave me behind the scenes, like 23 minutes of tape, linked together that I could play on my Chromebook at the convention. It worked fabulous. And I looked at some of the scenes, and I don't remember them in the movie.
yeah, I'm guessing it's
they,
like action.
they were before we shot. He was a videography on Guyver, and he, you know, shot our auditions. So maybe some of the footage got cut at the very end, because there was a couple scenes. He likes one in particular, and honestly, I'd have to watch the movie again. Maybe you can tell me. It's very interesting, and I really like the work. It's Kathy's irate. Kathy Christopherson, Corey, comes running in, and she's ready to give me both barrels. She's so pissed off, and I'm very, very sweet. Oh no! Look, I need to apologize. I'm really sorry. I came across. Did you see? Was that was that in the main movie? Because I'm going like, I don't remember that again. So I have to watch the movie again and again myself.
My brain is thinking that's the part where like they knock her out, maybe, if it's in the office, or is it not
in the office? Yeah, it's in the office.
I think it might be in the film. I would have to turn it on and like fast forward, but I can't at the moment since we're doing the interview. But I think it might have been. It might have been, because I know she goes to confront you.
Yeah. And Stan says that's the favorite scene in the movie. This writer, videographer, he says, because she's coming in to really tear you up, and you're so nice, and she's like, what, you know, she didn't know how to approach me, because I came from such a sweet side, kind of, you know. So.
Yeah, if anything, if what I'm assuming is if there's always an alternate camera, if there's not just one camera, it could be an alternate angle. Because like I do vaguely remember, or it might not be there. It might be one of those, I'm having one of those Mandela effects where my brain's like, I think I remembered that, even though I like watched the film like the other day. My brain's like, it's not right there right now. My brain's just going, hey man, that crazy handstand crab walk thing. My brain's is still stuck on Koichi doing the crawl. I think it was Koichi when he scuttles across and like does the flip, and
that's awesome.
Like that fight choreography is great, just because they referenced I forget what they call it. It's a specific kick that this one stuntman and actor in Hong Kong. It's the one where Guyver does the feint, like he's looking like he's gonna do like the roundhouse kick, and then he does the feint,
and then he
kick.
Comes back. That's like beautiful. Yeah, I wish I was involved in more of that, but I can't really say much about that because I wasn't there. So
yeah. So this is a real question. I know that obviously when the Guyver's talking, they put like a synthesizer kind of effect on his voice for the reverb, because when you guys are in the helmet, it makes it sound like you guys are talking through like a speaker kind of thing for the helmet, where you're having like reverb. So when you were doing ADR, obviously they changed your voice when you're Guyver Zoanoid, but when you were Crane Guyver, or I forget what the correct term is for your transformation. I believe they call it Arlen Crane.
Arlen
Crane. I think that was the full character's name, Arlen Crane.
Sure.
When you're doing the ADR, obviously they have you in the booth recording your lines and stuff. You're watching the clips. Did you yourself actually change your voice, at least in basic Guyver, in basic Zoanoid form, or did they play around with it? If you recall, like when you listen back to it, did they add anything to your voice, or did they only add it once you got the Guyver unit put on?
I remember, Steve directing me through all that, and he would he would want, okay, I want a lot of intensity here. I want you to explode here. So he talked to me through a lot of what he wanted. He never said deeper voice here or higher here. It was more manic, maybe, screaming, lots and lots of pain. And we just used whatever I came up with. So he did direct me through it, but yeah, there was no voice changes from one to the other. But it is interesting because, yeah, when he said, okay, you're really, really frightened, and, you know, my voice changes with all those type of directions.
Yeah, because when I watched the film, like I've tried to check it a couple of times when I was doing the rewatch for these questions, because I noticed, like I said, both you and Sean, you know, you and David, when talking, there's obviously a reverb that's added for the Guyver units.
Sure.
When you're talking, but like when you were talking as Crane, you had like a really different, slightly I wouldn't say a tang, but like you changed your voice. But and I was like, was that him, just how he was enunciating, or was that it? So what you're saying is you most likely was just you talking a certain way to create the.
Yeah. And you know what, they could have put, William, I thought, well, is that my voice? Did they add someone else's in there? They might have looped something else in there, a different tone or something.
Yeah, because I know there's sometimes they added like an animal scratching in the background when you would like end a sentence. It would be like animal sound effect. Because I know when you transform, there's like almost like a elephant, like weird, like roaring, like a elephant going, and like when you would transform, like all the Zoanoids have like some actual animalistic sound. Because I know, just like when you were talking, you were like, Marcus. It was like, I was like, they had to have maybe reverbed a little bit of it. It felt like.
I think so. I think you're right. Could you hold just 1 second?
Okay, so picking up where we left off a few moments ago, we were saying about most likely ADR might have did occur when you were Crane, because there's some times where I don't think you could hit those full on voices, but I was like, it sounded like you, but I was like, at the time, like you said, it almost sounded like somebody else at one point.
Right.
And with the film being a direct-to-video sequel, did you guys ever receive like an official screening for the film prior to the recent anniversary event, or was it just like, it's out on home video, go buy it yourselves if you want to support it?
Oh, well, you know, we had 2 screenings before it went to video. One was in again, North Hollywood at a big theater, kind of the red carpet type of deal. And that was really fun with friends and family, and it was a pretty big deal. And then we signed, you know, autographs after. So it was really it was fun to watch myself, again, being fairly shy, even aside of me at this point, but to watch I laugh because when all my friends were there, and one of my best buddies, and his girlfriend was next to him, and I thought he was an extra. He's got a huge part in this, she kept saying, you know, which was very cute, right? But when I saw one of my first lines, when I'm walking through the mountainside with one of my assistants, and the line goes, "What are you men doing there?" You obviously remember that one, right?
Yes, that one is one that a lot of people remember. It's where Atkins has David, you know, Sean, right. And it's like really, really inconspicuously like, hey, not like there's anything wrong with that, but you shouldn't be out in the woods. Like I got the whole like where the innuendo was.
That's funny because that brought such a laugh. And even at the screening, and for some reason I got really embarrassed. I'm thinking, that's a serious question. Why are they laughing? But my friends were saying, that's brilliant. It was perfect what you said, you know? So I was very hard on myself. I've always been pretty hard. So anyway, so I remember seeing it at the screening in North Hollywood before it was released. And then we did another screening in LA proper. I'm not sure what the venue was, the Chinese theater. I'm not really sure, but we saw another one, and lots of fans came, and we signed autographs at the table and stuff. So yeah, we did have screenings before it came out.
All right. I guess just overall, before we get to obviously all the current day stuff, How do you recall though your time on the set, like with the other cast members? Like any like good stories that you have about just doing the film in general?
Yeah, you know what? They were so all great to work with, especially David Hayter. I remember he would come to my apartment and we'd work on the transformation scene over and over and over till we got so we were comfortable with it. And what was great about that was, yeah, everybody was so generous with their time and their knowledge, which I really, really liked. When David and I actually did film the transformation scene in the cave when him and I were shooting, um, Steve Wang would he went to direct. We did like a little read through before they shot. He said, okay, read through the scene. We read through the scene and then we read it again. And then Steve goes, okay, this is what I want you to do. And David he goes, Steve, let Bruno do what he does. Let him, he's got it worked out. Just see what he has first. And that was great because when you let an actor do what he does, make all the choices, and actually like it, obviously it's a win-win. So, but Steve goes, okay. And once he saw my work on it, what David and I did, he goes, that's great. Do it again. Do it again. Do it the same way. Are you satisfied? No, let me do it again. Let me do it again. And he did not direct us at all. Maybe a little bit at that point, but it was all our work, which was great. And so I remember I became really close with Christopher Michaels, the FBI guy.
Atkins, Colonel Atkins.
Yes, thank you. I would go to his place and we would jog and we would lift weights and stuff like that. So, and Kathy Christopherson was so much fun. She's very cute and funny and boisterous. So I got along really, really well with them and I really liked them. So yeah, I could say I had a great time the whole time. It was like, really, really nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say one of my favorite scenes in the movie is like right when everything hits the fan or whatever, like right when you guys start doing everything. I think it's the part where like, I think what is it? Sean says to Corey's character says to her, he goes, "Oh yeah, he's with the FBI or something," and she's like, "What?" Like she's like completely confused over the first time when he goes to fight the bear, and she's like, "Holy shit, what the hell?" Like those are like some of the best moments. As my hair gets screwed up. Those are some of the best moments where like she just like is like having the realization of what is going on here, and he's just like, a lot of crazy stuff's happening. I need to chill out. You need to realize there's some weirder, crazier things going on. Like that's so, like really I can tell like because when she went on to work with Steve Wang again when he adapted Kamen Rider Ryuki as Kamen Rider Dragon Knight, she plays like this like very serious. I guess excuse my French, but she plays the boss bitch type, but then she's also pretty funny where she's like, would you like to repeat that again? Like she catches all the younger characters, like because at this point now she's much older and that, so she's playing like this person. Because in Dragon Knight she plays a investigative journalist, but that's actually a front because she's actually a CIA agent trying to monitor all the Kamen Rider activity, which I think was supposed to be like a throwback to the Colonel's role in Guyver. That's what I think her role was in Dragon Knight, because she works with trying to figure out what this conspiracy is. So, like, if you ever have time to watch, like, a pretty good, like, action kids show that was, like, made, like, in the same age range as, like, maybe 10 plus, Dragon Knight is, like, pretty cool to see, like, what Wang did with that. It also was nominated for a Daytime Emmy for action, if I recall.
Really?
I believe it was.
Wow.
I think it got nominated for an Emmy.
It's funny, when we went to the reunion, Steve Wang said 3 times to me, Bruno, keep in touch with me. Bruno, keep in touch with me. Even when we were walking out to the parking lot, Bruno, I know, keep in touch with you. So I've got to make sure I keep in touch with him. I did send him all my email after the reunion and all that. So everybody's got a hold of me.
Yeah, because it seems like if he likes you, he finds a way to get you in, whether it's a small part or a big part. I think he tries to sneak people into his stuff, because
that's wonderful.
Like I said, when he did Dragon Knight, I wasn't expecting like 2 episodes in her popping up and then her being like a reoccurring character in the later half of the show. I was like, because I remember sitting there, I'm like, are more Guyver characters showing up in this? I was like, what's going on? I was like so confused. Yeah, no. So like you said, like you said, you had a good time with the cast and stuff. And speaking of which, how did that reunion even like come about? Because I've been wondering, as a guy who found out about it after it had happened, I'm like,
Right.
who orchestrated this? Like, how did they at least get you involved?
Well, again, the very beginning of this started 4 or 5 months ago with Donovan Thompson, who got a hold of me, director, producer from Oklahoma, and he was going, I want to do a podcast. And then from there, what had happened was Peter Valderrama, an agent, got a hold of me and wanted me to do the Burbank convention. So that occurred like maybe a month after. And then I got a call from, I want to say one of the staff from the Frida Theater where it was shown, said, "Hey, you're invited to the reunion." And it wasn't by Steve Wang or David Hayter. This guy called up. He says, "Hey, you're invited. We're doing a reunion of the Guyver. Would you like to come?" And I know we tried to get after we got in contact with each other, we thought, well, we would love to get Chris Michaels there, but apparently nobody could reach him or whatever the deal was.
Now, Chris Michaels was
the Atkins.
Oh yeah, Atkins, yeah.
Atkins, yeah. So then I said, wow, okay, that's cool. Which is different. And I go, okay, yeah, I'd love to go. And then I got a feeling David and Steve Wang put this together. I think I found out later that they were the ones that were responsible for putting it all together, and finding out that we were all going to meet like a couple hours before the premiere or the reunion, the screening, to have dinner and catch up with everyone, and that was so much fun. I had a great time going to that. But what was funny about that, William, was we all, it was like going to a high school reunion. I mean, I had such a fun time with them. We're all eating, and we had this big table with like 10 or 15 of us. And when we finished up, we go, well, Steve goes, we better get going. So we're all walking down the street. Steve goes, he said, "You know what? I bet you there's only going to be like 3 people that show up. That's it. There's only going to be 3 people." He said it like 2 or 3 times. Well, we're going, no, I think a little more they'll show up than that. And we walk into the theater and it was like jammed. And we were like, our mouths dropped open. We had seats in the back of the back row of the theater, and we watched the whole screening, and then we did a couple hour, at least an hour Q&A on stage, which was cool.
Yeah, because I found out about it like after it already happened. Like I saw that there was like posters and whatnot at the theater promoting the event, and having you guys there. And like I said, I just found out like your social media was just by accident, just because I know the guy who runs RoboToyFest, because he also runs Power Morphicon, the Power Ranger convention, and because he had already added you because you were attending his event, it just kept suggesting. I just kept seeing people you may know, and I'm sitting there going, nah, I shouldn't be rude. I shouldn't ask this guy. And I was like, what if I'll wait till he opens like a fan page, and then my brain's like, no, if he opens the fan page, that means he'll have someone else doing it for him, and then he won't ever see the message. And I'm like, damn, okay, I better go message him now. Like that was my whole brain, was like, just go politely ask him. What's wrong with asking somebody?
No, was that Scott Zillner? Is that who you're talking about?
Scott Zillner, who runs RoboToyFest,
right,
as well as Power Morphicon, because he had added you, because I guess, to coordinate and do the whole convention. It suggests me, people's actual personal accounts, and I rarely ping them unless I'm like, okay, this guy doesn't seem like he's going to get mad if I ping him and politely go, hi, I'm blah, blah, blah. I run a website that covers blah, blah, blah that you've been in,
Yeah.
That's
great.
why I reached out, was just because I was like, I'm just going to take a shot. I might try to reach out to other people too. Because I really want to talk to more of like the Guyver people, because like I remember like I want to say around the 10th anniversary of the film coming out, it was always on Stars. I always saw it on Stars right before the 2005 anime came out. And so like I got into Guyver because I already sort of knew about the manga. I saw covers of like the manga covers and posters for it in Japan, and I was like, oh, it has a live action. and I was like, okay, let me go see it. And then I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then I got more into that because I was also already into all the crazy, Tokusatsu characters and anime characters. So, so like you said, Scott Zillner got in touch with you, and you recently attended RoboToyFest, which, like you said, is your first real convention. So, what was your thoughts about being invited to a convention and going to it? Like, what was your thoughts getting the invitation, as well as your experience going there, obviously, since you were with Jack Armstrong, Guyver Guyver, and I believe Tom Fawn, who voiced Show in the Bio-Boosted OVA, the 13-episode OVA.
Yeah.
I don't know. I saw it as a kid. I can't remember how many episodes.
No, that's pretty good. Absolutely. It was 1989 or something, I guess, that Tom Fawn was doing that. Well, again, it was kind of a snowball effect, and I just kind of went along for the ride, went like, whoa, this is interesting. And then they said, Peter got a hold of me, and I went, and my friend said, just do it. I go, you know what? I'm an actor. I'm just acting. What are these shows? What are they all about? It's like, at first I kind of thought it wasn't the best idea, but then after a while I go, I was so honored. I started to think that, when fans got a hold of me, or they started Facebook me and message me and say how much they liked my work, and how some of them they changed their lives. I thought, well, this is an honor to go. Eventually I went from like, okay, this is silly, to an honor. And then, but the thing was, I did not realize how much work it takes to get prepared for something like this. I mean, I have to do everything, like, I want to do things right, from the photos to the posters. I wanted the best of the best. So it took me months to get it down, and to talk to my agent, Peter Valderrama. And then there was, again, I can't emphasize, Donovan Thompson helped me so much. But, so many details were involved in getting prepared, from from all the quality of the pictures to how do you take the money? How much do you charge? There's so many, and what I really liked, I got a Chromebook and put a tape running on that. It was a bit nerve-wracking, and it was much more than people even realize how long it takes to do a really good job. I mean, Jack showed up next to me, which was great. And they lost his pictures because he flew in from Texas. So he had all these pictures. They couldn't find his pictures. I had to pick up his banner for him because they didn't send the banner. He didn't have to do much at all. But when he looked at my booth, because I had everything, like, from the banner, huge banner that was a retractable one, he was going, I want to get your stuff. I want what you all have, because my booth looked pretty good. So anyway, so the thought was, okay, let me just do it and see if I like it. Friends were saying, you might go there and go, you might just hate it. But then when I got there and I set everything up, I was nervous because, it's like, where do I put this? Where do I put that? They didn't even have a table for me. They had to find a table. It took 15 minutes later to get a table. So finally we got a table, and then we set it all up. And as the day progressed, we really didn't see that many fans. Apparently, this RoboToyFest normally every year is done in Pasadena, which is like 15, 20 miles away. And fans are used to going to that one in Pasadena, California. This was way moved to Burbank. So they think that there wasn't as many people because of the move. And because of, because of the economy, people are really focused on buying what they want to buy. So I only
happened with Power Morphicon. They moved to Los Angeles, and they did get more people because it was in Los Angeles, but people preferred it being in the Pasadena Convention Center, so they moved it back, I believe, after the pandemic.
Oh,
and
really?
So this year is back. The last couple of years have been back at Pasadena after they did it in 2018. So I think Scott played around with moving the events around, or trying to get bigger venues, but it didn't really help, I think, in some regards. Because for Power Rangers, he did get, I think, more people at Anaheim, but the Anaheim Convention Center, people just did not like the actual Anaheim security staff. Because Anaheim is a big convention center itself there, that they have their own security. and the security staff did not communicate with the convention staff. So, like, guests that were actually, like yourself, supposed to go set up their booths were getting told they couldn't come in, even though they were the guests.
Right. Wow.
So it led to, like, I think that's why I think it moved back to Pasadena, or because Hasbro isn't treating Power Rangers right. But I know he's mostly a Pasadena con. All of his other cons are Pasadena. And I think with what he does for his conventions, at least usually, he gears them usually towards the right thing. Sci-fi, early 80s anime, and like, you know, early 90s stuff. So Zillner, when it comes to what he features at his conventions, he's very streamlined. This is what I like having here. And it's usually actual pop culture stuff that I think most people gravitate to. So I think, like you say, it's the location could have led to why you guys didn't have a huge showing.
Right. And even the vendors said we're making like maybe 1/4 or 1/5 of what we usually do because of the lack of attendance. But other than that, what was great about it, it was even Jack Armstrong said, this is such a great learning experience. He had a handler. He had somebody that was taking the money and doing that. And I was all on my own, but it was definitely a really, really good learning experience. But I got to say, working with him and having them next to me, Jack and Tom, and Tom's wife was there, we had a great time. We were teasing each other, laughing. I couldn't have been with a better group to have an enjoyable day. I mean, we were laughing the whole day. So even though we weren't doing, great fan wise, but we still had a really good time. And then we also he had us on a panel for like an hour. My friend said, I think it was an hour at 3:00.
Yeah. They normally try to run panels 45 minutes to an hour whenever he does a show.
Okay. I wasn't sure. And then we did that, and I guess that was a success. I mean, I'm not a great talker on the panel, situation, but Jack and Tom, they were funny. They did really well. So
yeah, because I assume Jack has a lot of stories just because of the how I've heard it was a crap show on the first movie. Like they had a horrible time. So I'm pretty sure he's
really.
I've heard stories that like stuff went wrong. I've heard stories like stuff went wrong, or they had too much content and they didn't know what to do with the rating. Like I've heard all these things. I haven't read that one guy's book yet. I haven't read all the other stuff, but I heard that like it was a wild time on the first film.
Well, I heard, I want to say, I don't know exactly who told me, but they said they started out, they seemed to know what they were talking about. They started out with a serious movie and they wanted to make a comedy, and then they mixed the two, and it just got all
jumbled because
right.
I forget what happened, but when they went in, they knew they were making it a serious adaptation of the manga. Then like when one of the producers saw it and some of the cast members on it, they're like, no, we got to make it like a comedy. Because they had what was it, JJ from Good Times as one of the bad guys, and then they're like, no, we got to make it more comedic and stuff, and they're like, what? And it just got like really out of hand. Like I know, like they also marketed it poorly by saying Mark Hamill was Jack's character, so when you're going into the film, you're thinking, oh, Mark Hamill is supposed to be Sean. No, he's just.
That's what I couldn't figure out. Exactly. I'm thinking like, what did Mark Hamill play? I thought he played Sean.
Yeah. So in the film, Mark Hamill is, I guess, a Western XP of another character that's introduced a little bit later in the manga, who's a detective that works with Guyver 3. Because your character is actually a stand-in for Guyver's 2 and 3. Because 2 had the broken control medal, but your color scheme is 3 when your suit came on. So, in the manga, obviously, they get a detective helping them out with the Kronos conspiracy going on and helping them out. And I believe Mark Hamill's character is a reference to him in the manga. Because a lot of the story beats of the first movie follow like the first major arc of the show, but then they go and do your movie, and yours is like all of the content plus a little bit of the next arc that happens right after that. So like it was like a weird hodgepodge of them taking the leftovers of the first arc and them kind of starting the next arc when they learn about the ships and the aliens.
Right.
Because the funny thing about Guyver is the story's still not finished. The author, he got caught up with other stuff.
Yeah.
He started working on other titles to help out a friend, I think, in a publishing company, and he also doesn't get along with the rights holder of the comic that he published it with. So I think that's why he hasn't continued it. I've heard stories that he supposedly doesn't see eye to eye with the IP holder, like how there's these companies called like Shueisha, Shonen Jump, like one of the license holders for the manga supposedly have the rights tied up, so he can't even like finish it right now. That's the rumors I've heard. I don't know. That's just hearsay. But I heard that he had tried to get another live action made even in Japan. They nixed the idea. Supposedly Steve tried to get a third film greenlit, and that never happened.
Wow.
And then supposedly another project was trying to pick it up again, and nothing happened. So that's all I know, is that like people have tried to do more live actions. I've heard the author kind of just like, I don't want to do anymore, or he's just caught up doing other stuff. I don't know the full story. Like I said, it's all lost in translation at this point and speculation.
Sure. Interesting. That's interesting to hear all that.
Yeah, because I think the last time a chapter came out was like, without checking, I think the last time a chapter came out was like 2016 or 2014. I could recall. Sure. Yes, the last chapter was 2016, I believe they said. That, and it's still not finished, I believe. I don't think they said it's ever. Yeah, it's on hiatus. Yes, I just checked. It's so.
Anyway,
like you said, you enjoyed doing the convention. You enjoyed. I know you were talking to me the other day. You do want to do other conventions, most likely, at least possibly in the future. I would say, as long as it's a sci-fi convention, and as long as you have other co-stars from the franchise, you probably have a way to just make sure, because I know when it comes to at least like Power Rangers and stuff, if you can have a more members of a certain team, you're going to get more eyes on it. So like if you have a team that's like, say, Lost Galaxy, people are going to be like, oh, those are the Lost Galaxy, or oh, if you have a Time Force, or if you have a VR Troopers, if you can get like one or two of them there, it's what's the old? It's better to work with a group than work by yourself.
It's interesting because I reached out after the reunion and I thanked Steve and David and Kathy, and then I know Peter Valderrama, my agent, said, hey, can you if you get David or Kathy, could you can you get a hold of them and maybe we could all do it together? And I go, absolutely. So I reached out to David probably a month ago and said, hey, it'd be great if we did and actually I didn't even think about, I just said, hey, we should do a convention because I'm doing one coming up together. He goes, I would love to do one with you. But I think to go through his management and all that has been a little tough for Peter, my agent. So I'm gonna reach out to David again and see if he can get a hold of my agent and we could go together and do some stuff.
Yeah, Arnett just did a bit burp, but yeah, I got all of that where you were saying about trying to collab with him, because I know people. I know a lot of people want to still talk to David because he's done so many things, as we talked about when setting this up, because he's done voice acting, he's done writing, and that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I even said graciously, I know you're probably out of my pay range, but I'd still like to hear the prices to see if I can figure something out. Because
he did an interview with Donovan Thompson, I think recently, the Guyver Geek. Look up Guy and David's on there, and I can't imagine. You know what? Donovan didn't say he paid any. He might have paid him, but I don't know.
I feel like there had to have been some payment, because like I try to reach out to people, and when I never hear anything, I'm like, they either think I'm not a big enough fish, or I don't have the money for it.
Yeah. You know what? That's ridiculous. I mean, I'm honored, and it's great to be able to chit chat for a while. I mean, if I was super, super busy on sets and everything, then I might say, hey, it's a little rough right now, but I would make sure I squeezed you in at least for something. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Because like, even for me, I said, oh, if your schedule is too hectic, I can just send you the questions and you can just write, and I'll just post them like that. That's how I am. I don't really mind. I know with how, algorithms are and sites are, people rather hear us and see us on a video on YouTube. But I mean,
Absolutely.
it doesn't bring traction to the physical site either. So it's like I always tell actors, you don't need to make time if you don't have the time. You can literally
Sure.
just fill in the Q&A, and I'll just post it up and be like, hey, they sent them to me. This is what
Yeah,
the
that's really
response
cool.
was.
Now, will this be well, when we finish this up, can you send me a copy so I can see
Oh
what it
yeah,
looks like?
you will have a copy. Like always when we do these interviews, I'm gonna behind the curtain a little for people who watch. We will edit them. Some actors like yourself, like you just now asked, can I see it before you guys publish it? And
Right.
we'll send it to them, and they'll be like, cool, great, I liked it. Or oh hey, could you actually cut this out because my agent says I can't talk about this now? Or
Got it.
oh, we
Yeah.
have to pull this back because we rearranged our schedule for releases. So
Yeah.
take that out and upload that clip later, at a later
Cool.
date. But so like if you want to see it in advance, I can do that and then
Yeah.
whatnot. And I've had people who are just like, just send it to me when it's live. I'll promote the hell out of it. That's usually I literally have that
It'll
with one of my
probably be
friends.
that way. It would just be nice to see it, and I'm sure I trust you. I'm fine. Whatever just make me look good. We're good.
Exactly. I mean, like I told you on the phone the other day, I can't like just digitally insert the actual thing and make a VTuber avatar of, but I can make it still look good. I can't actually put the Crane Zoanoid in, but I can
Yeah, there
find
you go.
out something.
There you go. That's
Exactly.
fine.
But no, it
Photoshop.
was a pleasure. It was a pleasure having you and talking about,
Well, thank you.
conventions, acting, in general, because I like knowing, learning stuff that I don't know or educating my audience.
Sure. Sure.
That's always what
No,
I try to do.
yeah. Well, no, thank you, William. I do appreciate it. I feel honored, and it's really nice to take the time. And it's good to get to know you also and where you're coming from, and just to keep the Guyver alive.
Exactly. Because
Keep
I
going.
mean, the author won't do it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So anyway, is that it? I suppose that's it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So for people who are following us, I know you're working on a website, right, for your social
Right.
media presence. Is it
Absolutely.
already active or is it not active yet?
Um, I guess my name is Guyver Zoanoid is what we decided my name. Yeah, I have a Facebook presence and obviously an Instagram presence. I have a website, Bruno Patrick at live.com. You can always go on there. I have photographs on there that people are, if they want a signed autograph, they can go to that. That's fine. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep being present on Facebook and Instagram and see where we go from there. And I look forward to going to the next convention. I think maybe one's coming up in October in Philadelphia. I think there's the Terracon. Have you heard of the Terra? Is it called the
I
Terracon?
I'll have to look it up. I'll look up
Yeah.
Philadelphia October Con because like there are so many cons nowadays that
Oh, okay. See, I
like
didn't know that.
they
Yeah.
are so numerous. Like you'll have a Comic Con, you'll have just an anime con, you'll have a movie con, you'll have this
Okay.
and this con. So like you can have so many different cons for all the genres of film or
Yeah.
books and media now that like you could have all in one. That's how it is. Like there are so
Oh,
many
yeah. No,
conventions.
that's cool. I will. You know what? I'll go to them if they want to send me over there, and I can make a little. If they can reimburse me a little bit for it, I would be glad to do it. So we'll see
All
how it
right,
goes.
then.
All right, man.
Yes. So like you gave us your content. I'll try to make sure to link it in the description. And
Thank
as I
you.
said in the beginning, it's Hero Club at hero-club.com.
Right
And you
on.
can follow us across social media at Hero Club for Life. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch.tv. So
Sweet.
other than that, we're out of here, I guess.
Awesome, man. Okay. All right, William. Thank you.
Yeah, you're
Have a good
welcome.
one. All
All
right,
right.
buddy. Take care.